Right guys, welcome along to tonight's Between the Lines. As always, I am your host Craig. Apologies for the late start tonight, but I told you guys last night I was going to be recording this week's Cop Council podcast, and that kind of delayed me getting on. I am as confused as all of you must be. Last night we were on here and we seen the news that Liverpool apparently are going back in to start negotiating with Leon again. Then I go on to Twitter today and I look at some comments and I see David Maddock and I think Paul Joyce have come out and said that Liverpool have no intentions of taking up conversation with Leon again about the transfer for Nabil Fekir. Is this just brinkmanship? Is this perhaps Liverpool just trying to bluff and call Leon's hand? Or do Liverpool have no interest in Nabil Fekir anymore? Will we see the end of this transfer saga? I'm really interested to know what you guys think, because when I left here last night we were all on a really, really happy buzz and we all thought, that's it. Is it going to be possibly Fekir Sunday? Are we going to see the news that we'd hoped for? I see Lalu in the chat. Good evening, mate. Cop Idol 1977. How are you, sir? Nice to see you in the chat again. Ferno, how are you doing, buddy? What do you think? What is happening with Nabil Fekir, gents? I mean, we were on here last night and things were all so positive. And Dell's in again. And Ferno says he still thinks he's signing, which is brilliant. I love the positivity, mate. Nathan John James says, I'm getting pissed off with this merry-go-round. I know we are, buddy. I get where you're coming from. And Thomas says, what's up, Craig? How are you, Thomas? Lovely to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining the chat again. Mark is in. Hiya, Mark. And Dave Henry, long time no speak. Oh, jeez, Dave, come on. It's been a while, mate. I mean, it must be 12, 13 minutes since we last spoke on the Cop Council podcast. It's nuts, guys. Sean's just joined in. He's asked, what's happened? Well, basically, Sean, you were here last night, I think, in the chat, mate. And we were speaking last night and there was some newspaper reports coming out. I think it was in the Sunday Mirror to say that Liverpool were going in to start renegotiating a deal for Nabil Fekir with Leon. And we all left here last night really happy, lots of buzz, great chat on here last night. And then today the news breaks via the Daily Mirror, I think, or the Mirror who David Maddock works for. And I think Paul Joyce in the Times as well, that have stated that no, Liverpool have not started negotiations with Leon again, and they may not do so. So we're all a bit confused, mate. I mean, Twitter's been an unhappy place today. I've seen some journalists who are just doing their best getting dogs abused. The likes of Melissa Reddy has been getting people saying, putting up her tweet where she said Liverpool when we signed Fabinho, this is the start of an extensive push from Liverpool in this transfer window, and then people are holding this up against Melissa Reddy like she's done something wrong. Do people forget, guys, that the World Cup is still on? Do people forget that we weren't expecting to get much done with the World Cup on? This is just, it's nuts. It's nuts the way some people just lose their minds. We need to be a little bit calmer on this one, guys. Leighton's in the chat. Hiya, Leighton. Lovely to see you, mate. The Junior's in. Lovely to see you. Owen's in. Alu is in. Steve is in. Brilliant. You know what? You guys are on so quickly tonight. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining the chat again. Alu says Fekir deal is driving me crazy. Quintero of Colombia is a good option. Great streaming as always. Thank you, sir. Really glad to have you on board. Steve, beauty, Steve, absolute beauty. Steve says, anyway, Ramos was consolation. It really was. How good was it to see that little rat crying after Spain got knocked out of the World Cup? I mean, one of the guys that runs the Anfield Agenda Twitter account was lashing the tweets out today, and they were getting great reaction, and there was a brilliant one about Sergio Ramos, and it was probably the only highlight for me today, because I was on with you guys last night saying that I hoped and I thought Spain might go all the way. Well, look, that ain't happening. But yeah, good to see Ramos getting a little taste of his own medicine. Dale says, Craig, I had to leave my phone behind me in Tato Park. Got home at 7, hoping and wishing for some good news, but you know how that ended. Tato Park, Dell, I'd say that was packed, mate. We're bringing the kids there ourselves very soon. We were there last year, great spot, but I'd say with the weather the way it is, mate, you had a busy day there. Ben said Liverpool should go for Subasic. Unreal tonight for Croatia. He really was, I have to say. He played very, very well. Although Kasper Schmeichel, I mean, wow, to pull off that save right at the end of extra time, fair play to the guy. His dad must have been extremely proud. Steve says, it's when you least expect it, it'll happen. Steve, it's not Fekir Sunday, buddy. I mean, I was hoping beyond hope. I'd said all along that I didn't think it was realistic, but I was hoping that I was going to wake up today and see that it was indeed Fekir Sunday, but sadly it doesn't seem to be the case. The Junior says Ramsey and Xhaka are better than Fabinho and Naby. Yeah. Yeah, there's always some, Junior, mate, isn't it? There's always some fans from other clubs out there that really clutch at straws. Cop Idol says, Craig, FEKIR wants Liverpool, and that's why I'm confident, and the club's silence equals 100% confidence. And there's a lot of people think exactly that. I know Dave thinks very similarly. Our own Dave, he thinks that silence from the club is a good thing. Evan says, let's get Casper in. You know, I don't know where I stand on Kasper Schmeichel, Evan, and that's a really tough thing to say because there hasn't really been anything to suggest to me that he isn't a decent goalkeeper. I mean, he was excellent again tonight for Denmark, as he has been throughout this tournament. Both goalkeepers were top notch in the penalty shootout. Fair play to them both. They made some cracking saves. Junior says Subasic is a decent keeper. What age is Subasic? I imagine he must be 30 odd at this point, but he did look solid. I mean, I'm not going to say otherwise. He looked solid, and he's kind of not a million miles away from the suggestion I put on the chat here a couple of nights ago when I spoke about Handanovic as an option as a goalkeeper. Max says, if Klopp pays 150 million for Asensio, the men in white coach should be called. He's not worth 15 million. What else have we got here? Hassan says, hello guys. Hello Hassan, lovely to have you on again, mate. Thank you for joining us. Mark says, Ramos cried. I cried with joy. It was glorious. You weren't alone, mate. There was a lot of happy Reds to see that little rat upset, because you know what, he had no real empathy, I don't think, for what happened to Mo Salah. As much as he came out and tried to say the right things at times, and he did said some absolutely horrific things as well, by the way, but you know what, it's good to see him suffer, and that's probably a horrible thing to say. It's probably a bitter thing to say, but it's how I feel, and I've always said I'm going to be honest about how I speak on here. And I was delighted to see the little rat get upset today because I don't like him. I just do not like him one bit. But look, enough of Sergio Ramos. Thomas Boland says, Subasic had a great game today. The White Warrior says, hello, men. Hope you're all keeping well. Lovely to see you again, mate. Thank you. Thomas says, at least Ramos got mugged. Junior says, the World Cup has been so unpredictable and I love it. It really has. We've seen Messi out. Ronaldo and Portugal out, Spain out, Croatia on the brink tonight, France brilliant against Argentina. I mean, Kylian Mbappe put in some performance. That was one of the best games, or most enjoyable games of the tournament so far. Imran Khan says, how brilliant was Kasper Schmeichel? He was awesome. He had a really, really good game. Sean says, announce Kasper. Dale Croft says, believe it or not, the place was not packed at all. Wow. Maximum wait to rise was 3 to 5 minutes. I think everyone was staying at home cooking a barbecue. Interesting tip. Maybe I'm underestimating this. Maybe I should be going during the good weather. Maybe I should get the kids out there a little bit quicker. But thank you for the information. The White Warrior says, anybody's better than Karius, lads. Is anybody else getting the sinking feeling that we may be seeing Karius starting in the Liverpool goal come the start of the season? There's something I want to point out actually to you guys. I don't know if I've ever pointed out before. You may hear a bit of a humming, or not a humming, but a fan noise as I speak at times, and that's just a fan on my computer. There's nothing I can do about that. It runs a lot of programs to get this stream out there. It's, you know what, I expect a little bit better because the MacBook Pro, it's only a year old, but if you do hear a fan noise, that's what it is. There's nothing going on in the background here. It's just something that unfortunately I've got no control over. It drives me demented thinking that it's ruining the stream for you guys, but I try to speak as loudly as I can to drown it out. Mark says Subasic is 33. That's probably in and around what I expected. Very solid though, very solid keeper again. Sniper Jewel says Kasper Schmeichel is a player with huge winning mentality, as his father is. Max says any goalie is better than the two Muppets we have. Cop Idol says his dad played for the Scum. He did, and of course interestingly then Cop Idol went and played for the Scum's arch nemesis in Manchester City, which was really interesting move actually from his behalf. Imran says, I was so happy that the cheating bastard Ramos and Spain are out. Thomas says, what about the Danish left back with them throw-ins? He's lethal. They were fine. I mean, the art of the long throw is sometimes underappreciated, isn't it? And sometimes it's a good tactic. If you can be direct like that, why not? The Junior says, it'll be Karius or Butland. Please get Alisson though, I beg. I don't think we'll get Butland, thankfully, but I'm worried it might be Karius Jr. and I hate myself. I hate myself for having that fear, and I hate myself for doubting the Liverpool player so much, but I don't know, it'll take a lot. I keep saying it'll take a lot for him to claw his career back. It'll take an immense sense of self-belief and a lot of work behind the scenes. Dave says, let's take a moment and remember how good Iniesta was. An absolute legend of the game. He was, Dave. He was, I mean, a World Cup winner, won the World Cup, scored the goal that won Spain the World Cup, won everything there is to win with Barcelona. One of the best footballers I've enjoyed watching. Played the game in the right way, never rolled around the ground, always tried to get on with it, hadn't got a physical size to work to his advantage, so he had to be creative. An absolute fantastic footballer. It's very, very sad to see him leave the international stage in such a way. Obviously with Barcelona, they won the Liga, so we got to go out on a high, and they won the double actually, didn't they? Didn't they win the Spanish Cup as well? But yeah, it's very sad for him to go out the way he has, but lovely sentiment, Dave. Iniesta, absolute quality. Kevin Smith says, yes, we're getting FEKIR after the World Cup. I believe it. Good man, Kevin. I'm with you. I'm with you on the positivity train. I think we're getting Naby FEKIR as well. Naby FEKIR. Look, I'm mixing up players now, bringing 2 and 2 together. I'm not forgetting them anymore, lads. I'm throwing them together now. Naby FEKIR. Close enough, Naby FEKIR. I mean, I can let myself away with it. I think it gets done as well, Kevin, mate. I really do. I mean, there will be lots of humming and hawing, but until I see something really concrete or a genuine link to an alternative or somebody actually getting announced, I'm always going to believe that this deal is going to get over the line. Sean says, hand on heart, I hope we do buy a keeper, but I can't see it, unfortunately. Cop Island says, I can't hear it, mate. I'm gathering that's in relation to the fan, which is music to my ears. So brilliant, thank you so much if that is the case, because I'm always really worried that the noise drives you guys demented. So I try and keep my mic as far away as I can from the computer. I try and push the computer back as far as I can from me without losing the background here, because, you know, the chimney is almost my signature at this point. I mean, some of you guys call it the chimney, some of you call it the prison. It is basically just a wall covering. I mean, it's a normal wall in the bedroom, but my wall was plain and boring, so I just threw this up behind me. Lubac says, a lot of players raise their game at World Cups. And they do, and it's the pride of playing for the country, mate. We often at times see players who rise above and beyond what they've ever done in their club careers and go on to the World Cup and shine. And with the World Cup as well, some of the beautiful things of the World Cup is that we see great examples of teams that are better than the sum of their parts, and that's what makes international football special at times. And Ireland as an example over the years, I mean, when we got to the quarterfinals, Italian 90, we actually had a decent enough team, but they played as a unit and they ground out victories, and we've seen that as well with Russia particularly. I mean, you look at Russia and Spain today, none of us, well, I'm not writing off all of you as a part, excuse me, but anybody I know did not give Russia a sniff. I had Spain to win -1. That's how confident I was, but Russia ground it out. So fair play to them, and it's always good for the World Cup when the host nation gets a little bit far. And how have you guys found I don't want to say the World Cup because that's a little bit too obvious, but I've been pleasantly surprised by obviously the weather in Russia. I mean, being as ignorant as I am, I imagined it was going to be a bit colder, but the people seem to have really embraced hosting the World Cup. The country seems to have opened their arms to everybody that's been over there. I mean, I personally think from what I've seen, Russia have done an absolutely amazing job at hosting this World Cup so far. So to the people of Russia, obviously, and to all the volunteers and stuff that have worked and hosted it so far, well done, great job, keep it up. The stadiums look brilliant, the pitches look brilliant, the weather has obviously been amazing. The only little downside was probably that England game where there was a ridiculous amount of flies on the pitch, but you know, that can't be helped. Ben says, a good shout for that backup winger we were after, that Croatian winger, not Perisic's the other one. What's the guy's name, the other one? Come on, it'll be in the chat here in a second, because if I can't think of it, somebody in here is gonna, is it Rebic or something? Is he the other guy you're talking about? Aliu says, still not 100% convinced about Alisson and ridiculously overrated and overpriced. Lubac says, there's so many footballers, where are we? Sorry. There's so many footballers won't be around after the World Cup, like Iniesta, Messi, Mascherano, Ronaldo, Higuain. Really good point. I mean, they're some of the biggest names of the last 20 years in football, and they're not going to be around, as you've rightly said. I mean, no Messi, no Mascherano, most likely no Ronaldo, definitely no Iniesta. Wow, it really is a crossroads in football, isn't it? When we're seeing guys like these pack it up and retire. Diego Godin as well possibly won't be around for the next one. And how well, by the way, have Uruguay done, a country of 3.5 million people, so pretty comparable to Ireland, to reach the quarterfinal yet again of a World Cup. They really do just box above their weight. Fair play to them. It was brilliant to see them get through. Flatman says Godin reportedly available for 20 million quid. Come on, boys, let's go to Spain and drive him back. We spoke about Diego Godin last night. I don't care what age he is. I would welcome him with open arms to Liverpool Football Club. I mean, we say sometimes the art of defending is lost. Well, he is almost fighting a one-man battle at times, trying to keep the old school art of defending alive. He is a true warrior of the game. Thomas Boland says Iniesta, an absolute gentleman of a footballer, just kept his head down and played. Dave said the noise is perfect. Sweet, that's what I like to hear. Lee Wilson says, to be honest, I should be happy we have Fabinho and Keita. Fantastic signings. And they both are. They absolutely are, Lee. Very, very good point, mate. I don't think any of us did. We'd see Fabinho come in as quickly as he did, albeit none of us knew about Fabinho full stop. But that signing was a lovely little surprise before the World Cup. We knew Naby Keita was coming in. That's two really important positions in our midfield nailed down. So, you know, we're not too far away. There's still time to get the 3 or 4 we need. Gillian says, good evening, Craig and all. Since I found you on YouTube, I have a good stream to look forward to each day. I don't always get the live one, but I can tonight. Great job. Thank you for the content. Gillian, from the bottom of my heart, honestly, thank you so much for the kind words. It's really humbling to see nice comments like this when I come on every night. And you know, you guys, I hate saying these things, but please do, if you haven't already done so, give us a thumbs up. Last night I think we broke our record for a thumbs up. I think we were at 88, 89, something like that. The stream was watched by over 1,300 people, which to me blows my mind. So if you haven't given us a thumbs up yet, or you just forgot, please do give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And Gillian, thank you. I hope you continue to enjoy the streams. We do appreciate you tuning in to watch them. Hassan says, Lovren impressive. Again, he really has been. He most certainly has. I mean, I keep saying since the Spurs game where he had a nightmare, but he's carried himself so well during this World Cup and for the second half of the season with Liverpool. So really good show, Hassan, and it's right that we give Dejan Lovren some praise because he deserves it. Kevin Smith says, I don't care what keeper we get as long as it's a good one. Try and grab someone from Leicester City if you can't get Alisson. Mark says, people rate that Rebic for Croatia. He's having a good World Cup, but he gets more yellow cards than he does goals, and Fiorentina loan him out every year. Dave says, Lovren is better than Beckenbauer. End of story. Love it, Dave. The White Warrior says, Gelson Martins is out of the World Cup of Portugal. Might see some movement on that front. Craig needs somebody like him. We've certainly been linked very strongly with him. You guys know where I stand on any of the Sporting Lisbon signings. I'm just petrified that anybody that signs one of their players is going to have a long legal battle on their hands. But to be fair, FSG have shown that they're not afraid of going through the courts when needs be. So if we are in from, yes, it may well be the time that it gets done. He is looking to cancel his contract at Sporting Lisbon for reasons that you all know. So yeah, very interested. But look, the main thing I wanted to come on here tonight and have a chat about, and Connor's also given a shout out to Degsy Lovren bringing the World Cup home. I want to have a chat about the misinformation that we've kind of been fed by the media over the last 24 hours in regards to the Nabil Fekir situation. Now, I know technically that the Sunday Mirror and the Daily Mirror are two different newspapers. As far as I'm aware, they're both owned by the same people, and I think I've seen somebody actually say that they may even work out of the same offices, but certainly do have the same editors. So for David Maddock to come out and give his opinion on what's happening around Nabil Fekir, that he doesn't think Liverpool are going back to the table to negotiate with Lyon, that's fine, that's one thing. But then last night for another journalist, particularly of the Sunday Mirror, to come out and say that Liverpool are back at the table to negotiate with Nabil Fekir, I mean, that's two different stories from roughly the same newspaper group within 24 hours. I mean, what are we to believe? This is the type of stuff that drives us fans mad. Yes, obviously we're told not to believe everything we read in the newspapers, but I can't get my head around why one newspaper, or again one newspaper group, would put out two differing stories within 24 hours. It just doesn't seem logical. So really, what do you guys think? Who the hell do you believe in this one? I know Cop Idol said, probably rightly so, that he thinks that no news coming out from Liverpool and silence from Liverpool is golden, and that he's very confident that it'll go ahead and get done. I'd like to think I think that way as well, but me being me, I do have doubts going forward sometimes. I just really want to know what you guys think, where you stand on it, how you feel about the game sometimes being played out between clubs using the media to get their narrative out there. Cop Idol says the World Cup is weirdly shaping itself in the Cockneys national team's favour. Yeah, it's fallen into place. I mean, I was talking to Tom earlier on before we started recording the Cop Council podcast, which, by the way, I will upload later on tonight. Probably won't put it live until some stage tomorrow, though, to be honest. Just to make sure it gets out and gets out with a decent hour, so people get to see it in their feed. We were talking about that, and I was talking to Tom, who is of course English, and I was saying to Tom, Jesus, you know what, it's really opening up for you guys, isn't it, the World Cup? It looks like you've got almost a clear run if you get past Colombia right up and through, you play Spain. And then I had to catch myself and think, Jesus, Spain are out. So England really do have a good chance of going right through to the final. It's absolutely mad the way this draw has opened up. Cameron says Paul Joyce tweeted about FEKIR, nothing new. I actually read the article, Cameron, from Paul Joyce in the Times as well, where he said precisely what you're saying. Actually, I have some snippets of it here, so I will read it out to you guys for anybody that hasn't seen it. Bear with me, please, while I grab it up from my phone. So many images on my phone, guys. Apologies it's taking me so long. Okay, so where are we? So, from the Times, Paul Joyce wrote, the projected £52.8 million transfer of the 24-year-old ended abruptly on June 8th on medical grounds. Despite the continued noise surrounding the matter, there have been no further negotiations. The facts are that Liverpool agreed the fee, an initial £48.4 million, with £4.4 million in add-ons with the French side on June 6th, and struck personal terms with the player. Liverpool staff travelled to France to conduct a medical the following day, and it was the next morning that Liverpool pulled out of the transfer completely. Now, just pay attention to the language he uses there. Liverpool pulled out of the transfer completely. Lyon then issued a statement announcing they had stopped negotiations 36 hours later. There's been no more contact and no renegotiation. He then goes on to say that there remains interest from Liverpool in signing Roma's goalkeeper Alisson. It's been complicated with evaluation that's been put on them by Roma, and that Real Madrid and other clubs have been interested in him as well. But look, just talking about the Nabil Fekir situation, you've seen there, he seems very, very confident in what he's saying, and Paul Joyce is an excellent journalist, an absolutely excellent journalist, so please don't think I'm in any way saying anything negative about Paul Joyce, because I'm a massive fan of his. But yeah, he seems very convinced in his language there that Liverpool have completely walked away. So what are we to believe? Mark Kinnard says, I don't think Godin would leave Atletico, and I'd be amazed if he would as well. Particularly, he must be settled there with his family and stuff. And then Junior says, for Liverpool he would. He probably loves playing under Simeone though. Lubac says, how good was Torreira for Uruguay last night? He was excellent. And if Arsenal, have they got that deal over the line? If they do, they look like they've got a very good player. Moneen says, I prefer Liverpool to sign a top class keeper rather than FEKIR. As would I, buddy. If it was one or the other, I'm with you 100%. The goalkeeper is priority number one for me, but I'm greedy, so I like both. Alou says, Godin 20 million, you're having a laugh, I'll never sell him. Paul Gormley says, doing a great job, Craig. Nothing better than connecting with Liverpool fans all over the world. Thank you, Paul, mate. I love it as well. It's exactly why I'm on here. I love chatting with people from all over the world. You never know where people are from. Just last night we were speaking, Claire, I think, was it Claire we were speaking to last night, who was in Peru. In Peru, she was a guide in Peru, I think she said. So she's a Scouser that is now living in Peru. She's a trekking guide, actually. Apologies. So what a job, what a change of life. And to think that we were on here last night talking about Liverpool with somebody that far on the other side of the world blows my mind. But it's absolutely brilliant, and it's why I love coming onto YouTube. Music Man says, is it beyond the terms of reality or possibility that Genie is used more of a 10 or wide role if we don't get a FEKIR or an additional winger? Well, he was played further forward in his time at Newcastle, if I remember correctly. Wasn't Genie played in that kind of, not a 10 role, but a little bit more forward? Lubac says, imagine if Brazil go out next. Jesus, that would be nuts. Neymar will be rolling and crying around the entirety of Russia if they were to go out. Cameron says, Champions League final, Lovren turned up while Karius did not. Junior says, some players get better with age. Max says, Lovren is the man, fair play. Torreira was world class. He had a great game. The engine on him, says Dell. Paul Gormley says, what's your take on the controversial fans from outside of Liverpool that are killing the Anfield atmosphere? It's a subject that some people, I suppose, are a little bit afraid to speak out about. I can only speak on how I found it when I've attended games, and I tried to get over to 5 or 6 games a year. Last year was the first year I actually failed miserably. I only got over to 2 or 3 last year because of family situation. But what I've always found when I've attended the games, and I can only speak from my own personal experiences, I've seen a little bit of a mix, if I'm being honest. I've seen fans that have travelled from Asia or elsewhere in the world that obviously are there and they're taking selfies and they want to get memories. They want to get memories, and maybe they're a little bit naive, and I've seen sometimes them with their back to the game taking a selfie so they can get an image of the game going on behind them. And to me, that's wrong. But I've also seen locals there that spend a large portion of the game just shouting dogs abuse at their own players. So I think it's a little bit of everything, Paul. I think also the age of the crowd at Anfield. I think if I remember correctly, Anfield has one of the oldest average age of season ticket holders in the Premier League. And as part of last season, I said I got over to 2 or 3 games, but I also got over to a couple of screenings around the Champions League. I got over to the Manchester City one and I got over to the Roma one. And what I loved most about those screenings was that there was so many young people there, so many young lads and young ladies there between the ages of, say, 15 and 25. And they were the ones that were trying to create the atmosphere. They were singing along. At halftime, they were down on the concourse getting people to start sing songs. They were bouncing. They were absolutely brilliant. And they created an amazing atmosphere for those 2 screenings. So I think at times that is also a little bit of the problem inside Anfield, and that we need to get a younger crowd in there. And look, you don't want to say push out the older crowd because, you know, that's not right either. But I don't feel that there's enough new blood getting into Anfield, new young blood to keep the life inside the stadium at times. And also, you then have to look at, obviously, ticket prices, which I'm not qualified to talk about in any way, shape or form. But there's also one big problem that I find inside Anfield is you don't have groups of like-minded people or groups of friends able to sit together inside a stadium and create the atmosphere, get songs going. How much better would it be if people with season tickets got to go and in groups of 10 or 20 or were surrounded by people that they knew week in, week out, they could get songs started, they could get the atmosphere bouncing. And I thought maybe would it be possible to have an almost, you have a season ticket but if be for you don't have an assigned seat, if you get me. So if you're in the cop section, say 103 or whatever it is, and you have a seat in 103, but you don't have an assigned seat. So if you know 5 people in that section, then you can all congregate together. And I just feel like there needs to be more groups of friends and like-minded people able to sit together at games at times. But as I said, people much more qualified than me, people who go to every single game, home and away, and are infinitely more qualified to talk about this than me, could probably give you a much better opinion. I can only speak on the times I go to the games. I've been there for amazing atmospheres where the hairs have stood up on the back of my neck. And I've been there for games that were pretty damn dull, if I'm being honest as well. So the opposition have to be taken into account as well. Nothing annoys me more than opposition fans singing, "Where's your famous atmosphere?" And you're saying to yourself, you're fucking Burnley, like, be honest, like, you're Burnley. We're not going to show up and be as good as we'd be in the Champions League semi-final against Roma. Sorry if I went on a bit of a rant there, or a tangent, by the way, Paul. Sorry if I over-answered your question, mate. It's just an interesting question because it's not something I've been asked on here before. Lubac says, I imagine Bonucci will be available on the cheap as well. Sniper Jewel says, some decent defenders can benefit of experience, but ageing is a big risk and a few teams can't afford to take such a risk. A few teams can. The Junior says, journos know nothing right now. Sorry, again I scroll past that. Journos know nothing right now. Just look at Sorry again, guys. I'm so sorry. I've just lost that in the chat again. Scrolling. Journals know nothing right now. Look at the Fabinho deal. Not a hint. Linked with Jorginho. Turns out we've been talking about Monaco and Fabinho since February. Dave says, Mirrors 100% different, owned by Trinity Mirror Group, but different journals. They own a host of different papers. Again, Dave, I'm just going by something I seen earlier on. I seen somebody put in a chat that, where is it here? Trinity Mirror rebranded as Reach. It owns both the Sunday Mirror and the Mirror, and now the Express. Both journals work for the same editor at the same company. Who do we believe? So I think they are owned by the same parent company, but that's just, again, me pulling bits of information that other people have told me, mate. So either way, it does seem odd. I mean, it does seem odd that we're getting two different versions of the same event. Lubac says the Mirror is full of shite. Well, obviously we all have our own opinions. I mean, personally, Jim Borden, who's a journalist that works with the Mirror, I hold in very high regard. As I said, Paul Joyce as well with the Times, another fantastic journalist. Mark says a lot of country managers said get your business done before the World Cup or you'll have to sort it after. LFC could do deals with any club until the player leaves the World Cup. It won't happen. And again, Mark is most probably right, and the managers are most certainly right. It's fair for them to expect that while they have these players in international duty, that their heads are with the international team. So I completely get where the managers are coming from. Paul says, I'm from Derry in the north of Ireland, and I'm the biggest, most passionate Liverpool fan you'll ever meet. Brilliant. Lovely to know that, Dave. I'm obviously from Wexford, down in the south of Ireland. Haven't actually been to Derry, believe it or not. Belfast is usually my go-to when I go up to Dublin, but I must visit Derry at some point. So lovely. Thank you for letting me know where you're from, mate. And again, thank you for joining the chat. Kevin Smith says, let's go for Kasper Schmeichel from Leicester instead of Alisson or Butland. The Junior says, I believe Nabil Fekir will join Liverpool. Thomas Boland says, Andros Townsend is available and got a good engine. Would be a hit for Klopp. I'm going to have to disagree. Disagree with you there, Thomas. I don't rate Andros Townsend at all. He had one good period, actually, I think, when he left Spurs, but again, it's all about opinions, buddy, so I will, of course, respect your opinion. I'll just say that mine is a little bit different. Max says, don't buy the newspapers. You're saying a paper doesn't refuse ink. Ben says, personally, don't think anything will be done until France are out of the World Cup. Probably correct. As I said, we spoke earlier on, and was it Kevin or somebody else mentioned that the managers do deserve the full attention of the players while they're at the World Cup. I mean, these managers don't get very long with the players. Usually international breaks are usually quite short, so every moment is precious when they have the players, and I agree their full focus should be with their country when they're at the World Cup. Killer for Hire says no news is good news. The Bad Elf says they write it because we read it. I have no idea what's going on with Fekir, but we would be surprised if we signed him. Joseph Reardon says it's just to sell a few papers. And Mark says, I don't think any journalist really knows what's happening. Clubs give or take news to the media to push other clubs and to make a bid. Or to push other clubs to make a bid, which is true. I mean, we've seen football clubs manipulate the media for a very long time. It's extremely prevalent in Spain. How many times do we see Real Madrid feeding lines to Marca and other newspapers to try and get deals over the line? Sniper Jules says, if Godin was on a free, he'd still could be interesting for Liverpool. Then he fits the transfer policy, even if the player is old. Lubac says, most of the bullshit comes from agents. I do have a special place in hell for agents, by the way, Lubac. I really don't like the money that they take out of the game. Yeah, there's a whole other conversation, but I'm not a fan of agents in general in football. Some of the fees they get paid is ridiculous. The White Warrior says, until France is knocked out of the World Cup, we won't hear much on Fekir, Craig. He needs to beg Aulas to leave Lyon. Yeah, Aulas really hasn't endeared himself to Liverpool fans, has he? And why should he, I suppose? He is Lyon's representative, and he is a known tough negotiator, but he's also known to be a spoofer and talk shite a lot of the time. The Junior says, I think Brazil will win the World Cup. Bobby should be starting, though no goals for Jesus in the group stages. Bobby is better at literally everything. And I agree, and I've said this as well since the tournament started. Jesus is a very talented, very good footballer, but he's not on the same level as Bobby Firmino at this moment in time. Bobby Firmino can give a lot more to that Brazil team, and I would have thought by the time the group stages were over, maybe Tete would have figured this out. But I wonder at times, is it other players within the Brazilian squad that prefer playing? Maybe Neymar prefers rolling around a little bit beside Jesus than he does with Bobby Firmino. I don't know. Junior says Moses, Simon and Shaqiri should join soon. Decent backups in my opinion. Depth is just what we need, and I hope Harry Wilson gets a chance. Killer for Hire thinks that the winner of the Belgium-Brazil game will win it all. That's going to be one hell of a game of football when it takes place. Kevin says, until Liverpool come out and say that we're going back in for him, nobody should believe the Mirror, the Daily Mirror, or anyone within them two groups. Claire Dean says, good old Dejan in the quarterfinals of the World Cup. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? You gotta love Dejan, Claire. He's looked very solid as well during this World Cup for Croatia. I wasn't expecting Modric to miss that penalty, if I'm being honest, when he stepped up in extra time, but it was nice to see him get a chance to put that ghost to bed in the penalty shootout. Max McGivney thinks Belgium will beat Brazil. It's certainly possible. Very, very talented squad, that Belgium squad, and if they turn it on, they're capable of beating anybody. Claire Dean says, yeah, just connected. Lubac says, I think Jan Sommer would be a solid buy. A couple of people did speak about him a little bit earlier on in the tournament. He's been fairly solid, and he's done quite well in Germany. Isn't he Mönchengladbach's keeper? If I remember correctly, I think he's with Mönchengladbach. The junior says maybe Carrasco isn't a wing back, could get exposed. Didn't he fuck off to China as well, if I'm thinking of the same guy, which can only be for one thing, a payday. So I'd rate the mentality of anyone who's willing to just fuck off and get a payday. Mark says, get backups for the front three, break the bank for a keeper. I'd obviously take Fekir as his quality, but if it means not getting him to afford a top keeper, I would. Max thinks it's going to be a France-Croatia final. What side of the draw are Croatia on? Are they in the same side of the draw as England now? I'm fucking useless with this type of stuff, guys. What side are France on the same side as England, or are they on the same side as Brazil on that? I know that they're now playing the winner of the earlier game from today, aren't they? So they're playing Russia in the next round, is that right? Flatman says, I have a feeling we've completely moved on, and we would have heard some whispers on other targets even if we were still playing in the tournament. Can't think of anybody though. Money says, according to the Daily Star, Jurgen Klopp is set to stick with Loris Karius as his number one next season. I gotta be honest, mate, this isn't the type of news I was hoping to be hearing. I've started to fear that a little bit more as things have gone on, but look, it's still early in the summer. I probably shouldn't be expecting anything to be done with the World Cup being on, but I think it's more that I know Jurgen Klopp is capable of giving players a chance of redemption and backing his players that it worries me to an extent. I think he should be ruthless on this occasion and just bring somebody better in. Junior says Gini was practically a 10 at Newcastle. Connor says he played left mainly at Newcastle. And Junior says the Star are literally clickbait. Ferno says, I seriously don't rate Alisson. He's so overrated in my opinion. I wish we just went for Perrine, who went to Juve for 15 million. And you know what? As good as I think that Alisson is, Ferno, mate, I understand anybody who doesn't think that we should pay anywhere near the type of money being asked, because he's a keeper that has one season in Serie A under his belt. So I understand the reluctance by both the club and other people to spend that type of money. I just think we need to get a goalkeeper in, so maybe I'm just clutching at straws, but I get where you're coming from. Claire Dean says, I can see Mexico doing over Brazil. Nothing surprises me in the World Cup anymore. It's been a good World Cup in that sense, Claire, hasn't it? It's been nice to see some shocks. Some of the bigger players just haven't stepped up and performed either at the World Cup. So yeah, it's a really tough one to call, and I'm very interested. I hope we get somebody who hasn't won it in either a very long time or never won it before to go and win it, because it's always nice to get those special stories, isn't it, throughout the years? Like Denmark winning the Euros, Greece winning the Euros. Even Portugal, I suppose, to an extent, winning the Euros was a shock. Lubac says, good show, Claire. Mexico have the pace to hurt Brazil. I imagine that's going to be a feisty game as well. I imagine Mexico are going to get stuck into Brazil and won't give them a second. Will try and swarm all over them, and Brazil might try and ride it out, and there's hope that Mexico tire as the game goes on and their superior quality might take effect. Thomas Boland says, my call too, Junior. He's feeling the same way about the Brazil game. Kevin Smith says, hi Craig, I'm originally from Northampton near Silverstone, the racetrack. I was actually over in the UK November time, was it before? No, it was after that. It was when we played Spurs at home, so whenever that was. I was over there and we weren't a million miles away from Silverstone. We were staying in Daventry. So let me know, Kevin, is Daventry not too far away from where you were? Because I remember the guy we were over there with, Hughesy. I don't know if any of you guys know Hughesy or remember Hughesy. Hughesy lived in that neck of the woods, and I remember him saying to me one time that Silverstone wasn't a million miles away, so I think we were close enough to you. The Junior says, Brazil to win, Coutinho's been brilliant. The Junior also says, the atmosphere is still brilliant, but some league games aren't allowed anymore. Right, what else have we got? Dave said, I think we've had a good chat about FEKIR. I'm sticking to my guns. You should all listen to the pod. Yeah, the pod, it isn't actually out yet, Dave. I haven't edited the pod yet. I came straight on here after we finished recording. So if you listen to the pod on the likes of iTunes, Acast, Spotify, any of those type of podcast players, it will be out around probably 1 a.m. by the time I get off here and then get it edited. But if you listen to it on YouTube, it won't be uploaded and ready to go until probably 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, just to make sure it gets released at peak time and gets as much exposure as it can. Eric says, hello from Yangon. What's our chances of getting Navas in goal? I'd say very slim, but I'd caveat that by saying I'm not saying that because I think he's not a good goalkeeper. I think Keylor Navas is a very good goalkeeper, and if Real Madrid do bring in Courtois, or they do try to bring in Alisson, although I'd imagine Courtois is more plausible, then Keylor Navas will probably rightly want to move on. So where will he go? So never say never, mate. And I wouldn't say no to Keylor Navas. I think he's underestimated by many. Thomas says, we took a block of friends tickets for Liverpool City. They ran us $175 a ticket in the Giant Stadium for pre-season and a World Cup year. $175 a ticket. That seems really fucking harsh, mate. 175 fuck. And was that face value, or was did you have to pay a few quid on top because you couldn't get the tickets? But $175. It's about what, 150 odd euro, 155 euro. I can't imagine paying that much for a ticket to a game. That's it's dedication, though, mate. I mean, fair play. Hopefully, will you do a bit of tailgating before the game? There's one thing that fascinates me about American sports, Thomas, is the whole idea of tailgating. Obviously, in the UK and Ireland, we haven't got the weather to do such, but it's a brilliant idea. I love the fact that people go to games, arrive there early, have a bit of a barbecue, have a drink, have a bit of crack in the parking lot before the game. And by crack, obviously, I'm talking in an Irish sense. But yeah, it's something that I really love. I think American sports are, they're special just because of that alone. But obviously, weather plays a massive part. Neil says, I think we know a lot more I think we will know a lot more this week about FEKIR. Klopp is back for pre-season tomorrow. Undoubtedly will be asked questions. Let's see how he answers them regarding FEKIR. Dave says, Claire, we did a pod just before the World Cup and it has to be Bobby all the way. He changed every game he's come on. Junior says, France on the counter are quality. Uruguay will be a lot harder to play against. Yeah, Uruguay, they won't give you an inch. I mean, we've seen how good they are defensively, so yeah, I'm blown away by how well Uruguay are doing. I know I've said it before, and look, I know we can look at it and say, well, they do have Godin, they do have Cavani, they do have Luis Suarez, obviously, but a country of 3.5 million people, they are really tiny compared to some of the countries that they're up against. Lubac says, how many quality centre backs do France have? Pavard, Hernandez, Langley, Varane, Diop, Umtiti, Upamecano, or what's the guy's name? Upamecano, Zuma. Let's just buy one. I mean, if I can pick from that list, I will have Varane, please. Thank you very much. The junior says, Jesus didn't score a goal in the group stages after starting every game. Bobby links up better with Coutinho and Neymar as well. Mark says, Craig, do you do watch-alongs on this channel, and if so, are you doing them for pre-season games? Really interesting question, because the answer to that will be yes, absolutely. We will be doing watch-alongs for the new season. We probably will trial them for the pre-season games, although I'm not sure if we'll be doing them for the American leg of pre-season, just because of the unsociable hours, I suppose, from my side, particularly with my son. But going forward for the Premier League campaign, for the Champions League, we will absolutely be doing watch-alongs. It will be me that will be hosting the majority of the watch-alongs, and we will obviously be taking your comments on board. I'll be reacting in real time to what's happening in the games. And then we're hoping to have a phone in as well afterwards, where if you guys want to come in, call in your opinions, let us know how you're seeing the games. It's absolutely something we'll be doing. And we're actually working on the tech side of it as we speak, trying to make sure that everything will be ready, because we don't like to roll stuff out unless we're 100% confident that we can do it to the best of our abilities. Otherwise, we'll just look like idiots. And we tend to try and not look like idiots as much as I give out a different impression at times. So yeah, Mark, in answer to your question, we absolutely will be doing watch-alongs, although I can't guarantee it for the American leg of the pre-season tour. But I hope you enjoy them, and I hope if you're watching you haven't yet subscribed, that's another reason for you to subscribe to the Anfield Agenda and hit that like button, and look forward to a lot of new content coming up. You're going to get podcasts. We're hoping video podcasts along the way as well. More people in for some live shows, some more pre-recorded videos, possibly some stuff with myself and Connor meeting up and doing live streams together. Yeah, there's going to be a lot coming from us, and I hope you guys enjoy it. You've been brilliant to us since we've started on here. I mean, I couldn't have imagined we'd have as many people tuning in every night to watch the channel, to interact with us, to have a laugh with us. And the lack of trolls that we've had, by the way, has blown me away as well. Maybe I'm looking at this odd because I'm somebody that comes from more of a Twitter background on social media. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. So to come on here, I was expecting it to be a lot more toxic than it has been. That could be just Twitter. Twitter has just ruined my mind, because, you know, at times on Twitter, as brilliant as a social media platform as it is, it can get a little bit toxic on there at times. And I was only speaking to Connor recently about this, in that since I've joined YouTube, we started this channel, I've been amazed at how nice and how welcoming and how happy people on here are, which is a lovely change. Claire says, I agree, Bobby is the man. Squism says, we already had a French centre-back, it didn't work out. That's because he was taking things he wasn't allowed to take, to be fair. I mean, fat burners that he wasn't allowed to be taking. Silly boy. That and that really pissed me off as well, Squisms, because I really, really liked him as a player. So I was really sad that it didn't work out for him. But obviously Klopp is a stickler for the rules of the club, and if he broke the rules on a few occasions, Klopp was probably right to move him on. What else have we got here? Kev says, AC Milan's goalie, why not go in for him? And Kev, I've been saying that myself a lot recently. It's no secret that AC Milan have issues around financial fair play. They've been banned from taking part in the Europa League next season. Obviously they are going to appeal that to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, but I mean, I'd imagine that a bid of 35 odd million for Gianluigi Donnarumma would have to be entertained by Milan at this point. If we did sign him, I think I've said this before, I'd probably expect him to take a year to settle in. We might see some silly little errors throughout that year, but long term, I imagine he'd be a very, very good buy, and you get a very long time out of him. So for me, Kev, that's a good show. The junior says, don't think we'll get a world-class centre-back, but think we'll definitely get Jamal Lascelles, who I think would make a lot of us happy, because he's a very good, consistent centre-back, learning his trade up there with Rafa Benitez, captain of a Newcastle side that are very good defensively. Paul Turner says Russia will play Croatia. Mark says, good shout, Lubac. And Skipperdog says Karius has 2 upgraded. Jesus isn't up to it. Or Karius has to be upgraded. Is that where we're going with this? And Jesus hasn't been up to it. Um, the junior says Russia dollars, dollars, dollars all the way to the final. Not sure what your take on that one is, buddy, so I'll leave it. Lubac says, I'm worried that Alisson will be a one season wonder. I suppose we only really need to worry about that if he signs for Liverpool and he turns out to be a one season wonder. If we don't sign him and he turns out to be a one season wonder, then obviously Kloppo and everybody else will be proved right and not going and buying him. Ben says Modric has been the best player in the tournament so far, bar none. None of the big players have stepped it up, which is true. The junior says Alisson to Chelsea. We get TBO. What else we got? If we're talking about Courtois, by the way, Courtois is going to head to Real Madrid by the looks of things. Kevin Smith says Alisson is not worth 18 because he's like you said. The junior reckons Brazil will win 3-2. Sean says the Croatia goalie is much better than both our keepers. What club does he play for? And I think a lot of people on here tonight were speaking very highly of the Croatia keeper, who had a very good game, as to be fair did Kasper Schmeichel tonight. The junior comes in and says Moses Daddy Simon, what a name. Ben says Shawnee plays for Monaco. And Mark again reiterates that he plays for Monaco. Subasic, sorry, yeah, Monaco player. Music Man says big questions to answer over fun / ambition. If Keita last summer window, Fabinho and a Shaqiri / Moses type player are all that comes in, I understand it's early still. Yeah, we have to give it until the season starts, I suppose, mate, but it's been a good start to the window. We knew Keita, as you said, we knew Keita was coming in. Fabinho was a nice surprise, but you'd like to see another one or two soon enough, wouldn't you? But if we have to wait till after the World Cup, we have to wait. But it's the goalkeeper situation, mate. I keep saying it's the goalkeeper situation that really worries me. Kevin says, yeah, Daventry is not far from where I was born. Oh, excellent. So I wasn't a million miles away then. Flatman says Suarez was vilified for that handball, but Danish defender did what he had to do to give his keeper a chance. I mean, I'd have done the same in both their shoes, to be fair. And I'd imagine most people would put in that situation. I mean, it's not... You're in that spot. I mean, you have a chance to stop somebody from scoring. Fuck doing the right thing. For me, it's all about winning in that situation. Lubac says Real Madrid signed Lunin and he looks quality, but he'll be a number 2, so Navas might stay a bit longer. It looks like, as I said, touched on a few minutes ago, it looks like they're going to try and sign Thibaut Courtois as well, or certainly that's what's been doing the rounds in the papers recently. Still no word, by the way, guys, from Coca-Cola coming in to sponsor the stream, which is disappointing, especially with the amount of this shit I go through. The junior says there is an agenda against Suarez. That's why. And that leads me on to something that we spoke about on tonight's Cop Council podcast. A listener's question came in from Senior Spielbergo, who I think Connor knows very well. And the question was about Ronaldo helping Edison Cavani off the field. Sky Sports reported it that it was, heroic, or it was a beautiful act of sportsmanship, something along those lines, from Cristiano Ronaldo helping Cavani off the field. I viewed that as somebody who was losing a game, getting the other fucker off the pitch as soon as he could. I think if Ronaldo could have dragged Cavani by the hair off that field, he would have. So I certainly didn't see it as the amazing act of sportsmanship that some of the media outlets seem to believe it to be. So I'd be interested to see what you guys thought of that situation. Did you think it was an amazing sporting gesture from Cristiano Ronaldo, or are you like me and think that he was just trying to get Cavani off the pitch ASAP? Lubac says, if Barcelona have been linked to Lozano and Willian, will that mean Dembele might be sold? United as well, been quite strongly linked to Willian. I think Barca have said, they've tried to say that they weren't willing to sell Dembele, but I just wonder, has that situation changed slightly since they missed out on Antoine Griezmann? I think they were quite sure they were going to get Griezmann, so maybe with Griezmann not coming in, Dembele might not be going anywhere. Aaron says, Craig, do you think FEKIR will happen? Yeah, I'm going to stick to my guns and say I do. Again, I will caveat that by saying, please don't think I'm speaking about that from any place of knowledge. I'm just going on gut feeling and what I'm trying to read between the lines of the newspapers. Maybe I'm just a silly optimist, but yeah, I do think it'll still happen. And until we hear the club actually putting in bids for replacements, or until we see a replacement or an alternative actually show up in Liverpool, then I'm gonna say yeah, we'll we will, fingers crossed, get Nabil Fekir. Joseph says, remember how well Iceland did? 350,000 people. That's unreal. Couldn't believe they were that small. Yeah, it's some accomplishment, and it didn't just happen overnight as well. The Icelandic Football Association and the Icelandic government invested an awful lot of money in the game. Stan Collymore did a really good, I won't say documentary, but a really good video on. He went over and visited the Icelandic Football Federation and went to see the young guys coaching and stuff. And apparently, as you know, Iceland, the weather can be fiercely cold at times, so they built a lot of indoor training facilities. They put a lot of coaches through to get their badges, and I think if they didn't subsidise the coaches' fees, they were certainly a lot less than they are in the UK and stuff. So they have a lot of qualified coaches over there to help the kids develop, and it's only strengthened the game over there, and they're starting to see the rewards now. They're starting to reap the rewards of their investment. So well done to Iceland, well done to the Icelandic government, to the Icelandic Football Federation for having the foresight to invest in the game at grassroots level, and it's coming back now and it's repaying them in spades, and the national team are doing absolutely fantastic. And as Joseph said, for a country of that size to be punching that far above their weight, it's tremendous. Nathan Carter says, so from Redman build-up video, I'll head straight here. Excellent, please do, and hopefully you'll stay with us after the game as well, because you can always catch up with the Red Men stuff a bit later on. I know they do some really good stuff after the game. Monkey says, Ramos crying, laugh. Yeah, I think it made many of us smile, Monkey mate. It was definitely trending on Liverpool Twitter. Lubac says, I don't think Barcelona has the style to suit Dembele. And Mark says, Chester on Saturday, watch along then. Hopefully we will buy Naby, and or hopefully we will see Naby and Fabinho. Is that this Saturday already, the Chester game? Jesus, that snuck up, didn't it? Fucking hell, it really did. I'll certainly be watching that game. Whether or not we'll do a watch along, I don't know. I'll have to talk to Connor about that one, see how far we've come along on the tech. Mark says, hopefully to Junior. Thomas Boland says, tickets through the MetLife Stadium sites, but hey ho, we get to see the boys. Absolutely, and proper dedication, mate. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you get to see all the players that you're hoping to see, and I hope afterwards, they hang around, and they usually are. They're usually brilliant about stuff like that. They know that they're there to help publicise the clubs and to reward fans from all around the world who don't get a chance to come over to the UK and see them all the time. The Junior says, I don't mind Sacco, thought he was tough as nails. He was tough as nails. He looked like Bambi on ice at times, but he was never as bad with his passing and stuff as some people try to make out. Paul Turner says, good evening from Spain. A lot of unhappy Spanish here. Not me, especially with Ramos. What part of Spain are you in, Paul? Forgive me, mate, if you've told me before. Are you just on your jolly bobs over there at the minute? But I could well imagine there's a lot of very disappointed people in Spain. I was disappointed for them, except for Ramos. I mean, obviously I've told you guys about Iniesta and how I want them to do well. But yeah, real shock seeing Spain go out today. Flatman says, I agree, there was no sportsmanship in it at all. Would have been a different story if they were winning, in my opinion. Claire Dean says, I actually don't even think Cristiano has a decent sporting gesture in him. Music Man says, Craig, would you be happy with Butland, Keita, Fabinho, Fekir, Shaqiri if you're offered right now? I would take all of them, but they can keep Jack Butland, and I'd keep Karius. If it was Karius or Jack Butland, I wouldn't bother wasting the money on Jack Butland. I just don't see him as an upgrade on Karius. And that goes to show you how little I think of Jack Butland, because you guys know how much I want us to bring in a keeper to take the number 1 shirt from Karius, but I just think Jack Butland would be a waste of money. just my opinion, but let me know what you think, Music Man. Would you be happy with the signings you've mentioned? Kevin says Daventry is 26 miles away from Northampton. The Junior says I'd rather Carrius than Butland. There, I said it. Well, I didn't read your comment before I said mine, so yeah, I'm the same as you. Thomas says everything with Ronaldo is pointed towards the media. He's Europe's Kardashian. That's a great show. That's a great show. Luke Small says Aspas deliberating missing to put out Ramos. Once a red, always a red. Kevin Smith says Ramos crying like a baby after going out of the World Cup. Sam says I just want us to do something easy for once. Aspas from corners to penalties, he's cursed. Uruguay or Croatia all the way, says Junior. And Luke says, who do you think we will sign? Well, obviously I've said FEKIR, so I'm going to stick with that one. The links to Shaqiri seem to be very, very real. I've mentioned before that a couple of big media outlets have done little pieces around Shaqiri as well. They've spoken to journalists from Switzerland, and it seems to be a genuine link there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was true and we seen Shaqiri. Other than that, I'm struggling. Because there's nothing getting out there. There's no genuine links getting out into the media, so I'd be just clutching at straws. I'd like to see us bring in a centre back, and when I say bring in a centre back, I mean somebody to compete with Dejan Lovren, to play alongside Virgil van Dijk, because I don't see Joel Matip as the answer. He doesn't seem to be able to get a string of games together. He's always picking up little injuries, so perhaps see him moved on. But other than that, Luke, I honestly don't know. I'd be just clutching at names for the sake of it, buddy, and I've no idea. The Junior says, I think our window will end as Alisson, Lascelles, Naby, Fabinho, FEKIR, Simon and Shaqiri. I'm optimistic. Would I take that window? Hell yeah, I'd take that. The Junior. I'd be happy if we close with that window. Although I don't know much about Moses, Daddy, Simon. But look, I'm happy with every other name there. And I'm not saying I'm unhappy with him, just saying I don't know much about it. Paul says, no Craig, I'm living over here at the moment. Oh, you did tell me on the Costa Blanca. Apologies, Paul, I remember now because I was telling you about my uncle having a place. I'm trying to think of the name of the pub, Paul, that the judge's chamber, the judge's chair. Does either of those ring a bell, Paul? As to being a pub. And what's the other pub's name where they used to always go to? That was right beside my uncle's house. I can't remember. It might come back to me, Paul, but yeah, somewhere in and around there was where my family have some holiday homes as well. Luke says apparently Klopp wants Alisson. Music Man says, would you hold on to Miggs? I'm the same. No to Butland would want the centre back. No, I absolutely do not want us to keep Simon Mignolet. 100% want him gone out of the club. Don't like him. His head annoys me. I don't think there's any way back for Mignolet. Whatever about Karius, and I have my huge doubts about him. Everybody that knows me at this point knows how much I don't like Simon Mignolet. Again, I feel shitty about myself speaking about a Liverpool player in such a way, but I just do not like Simon Mignolet. Don't rate him at all. Every time he picks up the ball or goes near him, I feel myself shuddering with worry. What else have we got? The Junior says Lacazette, or how do you pronounce it? Is it Lascelles, Lacazelles, or Lascelles, or Lascelles? I always just say Lascelles, so I'll go with that. Or Tekowski. Mark says Lascelles. Although I don't know how you guys are going to tell me how it's pronounced, because you're just going to write the word and it's just going to be the same way of me guessing it. So unless you want to phonetically spell it out for me. Chris Carlson says, who plays in the 10 on the opening day? Well, it won't be FEKIR even if we sign him, I'd say, Chris, to be honest. So I would say we may see... Am I wrong in thinking we might put Naby in there and play Henderson and Fabinho alongside him, allowing Naby to get a little bit further forward? Obviously, Wijnaldum in there wouldn't be unreasonable as well. Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't think if Naby does play in there, it won't be obviously to the extent that we see Coutinho playing a 10. It will be obviously one deep line midfielder with two more progressive midfielders in there, and maybe Naby Keita given a little bit more leeway to go forward. But I just don't think it'll be FEKIR even if we sign him, because I think it'll become a little bit too early for him with the World Cup. I don't think he'll be up to speed on how Klopp wants to play. Luback says, Craig, would you sign another keeper with a Mignolet shaped head? That's a good question. There's very few people in the Premier League with a head that annoys me as much as Mignolet. Although there is the pudding. Maguire has a massive head as well. Flatman says, you thinking about doing a deadline day special so we can celebrate our window or worst case scenario blow off stream? Hell yeah, damn right, Flatman, I will be on here. I'm a transfer window junkie, so I'll definitely be on here counting down the end of the window with you guys if you're around. Derek says, FEKIR will sign after the World Cup for sure, just my opinion. Monkey says, the Russian goalkeeper Akinfeyev was good today. He's a shocking record in the Champions League, if I remember, hasn't he? Like not conceded in. He's conceded in every game, I think, for the last God knows how long. Daz has joined the chat. Hi Daz, lovely to see you in, mate. Says hi Junior and everyone in the chat. Obviously you guys know Daz, most of you. If you don't, On the Bench LFC, another fantastic Liverpool channel who I highly suggest to anybody who enjoys my channel. You will certainly enjoy Daz's channel over there on the Bench LFC. So if you do like ours, you do subscribe to ours, and you haven't somehow by some miracle heard of Daz's channel, then go over, check it out. Top man. Flatman says yellow tie Craig. Yeah, Craig Jim White-esque. You won't be a yellow tie, you probably more see a yellow Adidas t-shirt or a yellow polo shirt, because I'm a bit of a chav, as I keep saying, so I don't really wear suits and ties. Grabara has potential, says the Junior, and I know again a lot of people think very highly of Grabara as a goalkeeper. I think Dave as well during one of our pods spoke about Grabara. Den says 39 days left. I'm starting to stress now. This window is crucial for us. We need to start wrapping up these signings. I'm a little bit confused as to how we should be feeling though, Den, in this situation. If we think back to when we got Fabinho done, and we were unsure whether FEKIR was going to get done just before the World Cup or whether it would be a little bit too quick. I think we were all kind of happy around that time to say, well, look, the World Cup is going to happen. We probably won't see it happening for the next 3 weeks or so while the World Cup is on. And now that the FEKIR deal has hit a stumbling block, or may well indeed be dead, are we panicking as fans a little bit because that one deal didn't quite get over the line? Are we losing some faith in Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards and the transfer team? Are we doing so incorrectly? Are we all hypocrites as fans on here and just stressing because it is a stressful time, isn't it? It is a stressful time. But if we were to say to ourselves, if that window banged shut tomorrow and we're looking at the team that we have now, how would we get on next season? And I think we'd still only be 1 or 2 away, a goalkeeper and a backup for the front three. So just I think we just have to be calm and just allow this one to play out. I think that both the club, the manager, obviously the owners, they know how important this window is. They want to build for success, and they must know. They must see the amazing things that Jurgen Klopp has done and how far he's got us on the little net spend so far. So yeah, I'd imagine that they know we need the players. The Junior says, Craig the Chav. I'm proud of it, buddy, proud of it. Mike says, Chris Bascom saying today that we will do some business but not that much. I don't know, what does he mean? Yeah, I have no idea. What does that mean? I mean, I suppose it's open to interpretation, isn't it? What is a lot of business and what isn't? 3 or 4 is probably what we thought maybe at the start of the window. I'd certainly think 3 more in now would maybe enough. What else we got? Kevin Smith says, Craig, I watch your channel and straight after yours. If Daz, I watch his channel as well and yours too. Great. Daz is a top-notch channel and a top-notch lad. And Daz was on tonight's Cop Council podcast as well. Daz takes part in that podcast every Sunday evening. So, as I said, if you enjoy Daz's content, tune in to the Cop Council podcast. It's out, well, it will be out at about 1 AM on Spotify, Acast, Podbean, iTunes, Castbox, Castaway, pretty much every podcast app, most podcast apps out there. And I will, of course, upload it here to the YouTube channel. It'll be probably tomorrow night by the time it's up here. But yeah, if you enjoyed Daz's content, catch him on this week's Cop Council podcast. I think you'll enjoy it. Aaron says, Craig, why do you call Outlast Johnny Cunty Locks? Okay. The honest answer to this is I have a tendency to overuse the word cunt. It's probably my favourite word in the English language. I use that word an awful lot. And rather than me just calling Mr. Owlas said word, I thought I'd probably best introduce sort of a nickname that I can call him without getting either kicked off YouTube or banned on Twitter or anything like that. So I came up with Johnny Cunty Locks because it's not going to get picked up by, I suppose, word searches, or it's not going to get picked up on YouTube, and they can't ban somebody for saying Johnny Cunty Locks because it's not technically a curse word. So that's pretty much why I call that pain in the backside Johnny Cunty Locks, because he's an absolute nightmare to deal with. I never got around to giving Ralph Ranić a nickname last year, so maybe I'm just playing catch up a little bit. Mark says Pavlenka will be with a top team one day. If we can get Alisson, I'd get him. It's still an upgrade. The Junior says Craig and Daz best LFC channels on YouTube. I mean, I'm happy with that. Definitely that works for me. Then says I'm also thinking about pre-season. Also, signings need to settle, and that is true. Then I mean, Klopp has been vocal at times about saying that he likes to get players in early and he likes to get a full pre-season done with them if possible. And we know how hard he works the players during pre-season. And again, we've seen the players that do come in later in windows, like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Andy Robertson. They took a long time before Klopp felt they were up to speed with his plans and his methods and his fitness levels before they were introduced into the team. So I completely get where you're coming from. Lubac says Daz is in the house. Loki says that team we have got to a Champions League final. It's good enough with Naby and Fabinho to go further. I mean, yeah, you're right, and they're two brilliant additions to add in. Kevin Smith says, where are we? Sorry again, guys. I'm just scrolling back through the chat. If the FEKIR deal does happen, great. If not, we'll get somebody else. The Junior says Divock needs another go. I would change that and say Divock needs to go. Would be how I would have phrased that sentence. But again, each to their own, buddy. We all won't agree all of the time. Daz says, Craig, honest opinion, if we don't sign FEKIR but do sign a young player in this position, would you still take that with the other options we have? It's a tough one, Daz, isn't it, mate? It's a really tough one. I suppose it just depends on who that younger player is. I'll say it like this. If we didn't get a FEKIR in and we were to roll the dice a little bit with a younger player like you're suggesting, I'd like us to then maybe go and buy another wide forward that's a little bit more established and not roll the dice on somebody who's like not like a filler but an impact player like Sheridan Shaqiri. I'd like us to go and maybe start looking at somebody a little bit more established. So my head wouldn't fall off if we didn't get FEKIR and we went in the direction that you're suggesting, but if that was the case, I'd like to see us then go a little bit bigger elsewhere to kind of supplement the forward line. But again, Daz, I'd love to know your opinion, mate. Let me know how you feel about it, because this is all just about us sharing opinions as Reds, isn't it? And we're not always all going to think the same way, but it's always great to get different viewpoints and different perspectives on the Liverpool family. Sam says, I want Roman Berkey. Lubac says Alan the cat, woof woof. That's completely gone over my head. Wazim says, how about we make a bid for that French right back Pavard? Wasn't he the one that hit that amazing goal? I mean, the rear view of that goal and the spin of the ball was just, I mean, I thought Nachos was good earlier on in the tournament. I thought this one was probably a little bit better. Derek says, sorry Craig, I know you have a lot of messages to read, but you missed my point about VVD and FEKIR and the club's response. Apologies, buddy. Can you post it in again, and I'll certainly try my best. Again, I am sorry. I can't remember what it was, and I remember now saying that I will get back to it. I think it was on yesterday's stream, excuse me, if I remember correctly. So apologies, Derek. Whack it in the chat again, mate, just to remind me what it was, and I'll certainly address it now. Lubac says, Owlis looks like the Undertaker in a low. Good show. What else we got? Wasim says, well, he looks quite decent at right back. Flatman says, come on chavs, hit that like button, wink wink. Yeah, I hate repeating it, but yeah, please do give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the channel, if you're enjoying the content, and help us grow. Help us be part of the solution, not the problem. Someday we will figure out what the fuck this problem is I keep shouting on about, but until then, we'll work on the solution and we'll sort out the problem later on. Ralph Raniak, aka Muttonhead. That's a pretty good nickname, Dale. Muttonhead. You must be Irish or English saying Muttonhead, because that sounds like something the Irish or English person would say. David McCall says, really wanted FEKIR, now not sure what's going to happen, to be honest. Keep being confident, David. I mean, we can but hope. So I'm going to stay confident and think that it's going to get over the line. The club have to do some big moves this window. They're going to know, surely. Is Maxi 1892 a reliable source, Daz, mate? Oh, that one's aimed at Daz, so I'll let Daz answer that one. The Raptor says, Johnny Cundylocks is a fine moniker for a person who wants to deserve such a moniker. And don't forget to like, chaps and chapesses, to beat last night's record. Oh, I don't know if we'll beat that one. What was last night's? 82 thumbs up I think we got last night. I don't think we're going to beat that one, especially not on a Sunday night, but we can but be optimistic. Still 20 minutes to go, Junior. Lol. Oh Jesus, it's only 11:45. I thought it was a little bit later. Daz says, thanks mate, I agree. I think we'd invest the money elsewhere. In the team, a goalkeeper or another centre back. Yeah, centre back is a good shout. I know Dave particularly wants us to go and strengthen in that position as well. Junior says Lacazelle's or Tarkowski, Daz. Sam says, Daz mate, who would you sign if FEKIR isn't revived? I'm sure Daz will answer that a little bit further down. I said, Sam, to answer your question, I don't follow him myself. Talking about Maxi 1892 there, I think. Sam says, people are reacting to his tweets as he is. Sorry, the chat's gone a bit too fast. I didn't get a chance to read that one. I just want to make sure I don't miss Derek's, by the way, in case he does post back in. I feel really bad now that I didn't answer him on the last one. Dan says, I believe we're only interested in players that are still in the World Cup. Since a lot of players, for example, Oblak are not, then if we wanted these players, we would have been already in red. That's a fair point. I mean, there's nothing. I know they're on holidays, but you can still get stuff done like that when players are on holidays. Daz says, Lacazelle's for me, mate, comes down to me knowing more about him, to be honest. We actually, one of the questions we spoke about on tonight's Cop Council podcast, one of the listeners asked if Liverpool didn't exist tomorrow and we had to go and pick another Premier League club to support, who would it be and why? And there was myself, Tom, Daz and Dave on the podcast tonight, and 3 out of the 4 of us picked the same club, and I won't say who that is because I'd like to know your opinion and I don't want to sway your opinion, but guys, let us know in the chat. And look, I know we're all Liverpool and nobody, but just for a bit of fun, if the club didn't exist tomorrow, what would be your next go-to club? Is there anybody else you feel has the same morals or the same values that you'd like to see, or you like in a football club? Who would be your go-to club if Liverpool weren't around? Just to see if you're thinking along the same lines as myself and Daz and the other guys. Derek says, when the club was after VVD, they apologised and they said they ended all their interest in the player but went on to sign him. The club have said nothing about a deal for FEKIR. Yeah, the VVD one, it was really interesting. I got slated for this, Derek, by somebody before because I said that we weren't the only club to talk to Virgil van Dijk, and I said that I know of at least 2 other clubs that he spoke to, and somebody called me a fucking idiot and said I don't know what I'm talking about, nobody has any clue. Well look, those clubs are Manchester City and Chelsea, and that's pretty well known because a couple of other people in the chat said the same thing. So when we said nothing about Virgil van Dijk, or when we apologised and said we'd walked away from it, it was a different reasoning. It's because we could have been dragged for tapping up. We could have been put in serious bother. We already had a ban of signing underage English players because of tapping up or because of other issues. So I think it was just to pacify Southampton that we apologised and walked away from Virgil van Dijk. And look, that one worked out in the long run. This situation, I think, is completely different. If the fee was agreed, if the medical took place, even as far as we're aware that the interview was taking place as well, for it not to have happened, it seems like what's going around makes sense. So it has to be down to the medical, and the club either not being happy with the results or the club just trying to renegotiate for a lower fee. We'll find out as time goes on, But I'd be surprised if Liverpool did say anything, Derek, made about this, because when you're dealing with somebody's medical and someone's medical records, there's a confidentiality agreement in place there. I mean, these are someone's personal medical history, and you can't just bandy that about, and you can't just talk about someone's medical history with the general public, because it's completely unprofessional. So the fact that Liverpool have said nothing about this so far is exactly what I'd expect the club to have done, because they're a professional outfit. Whether we would have maybe expected a little leak here or there, I don't know. We probably would have got those type of leaks right up until the end of the Brendan Rodgers era, but since Brendan Rodgers has left, the club have really closed ranks, and as you said, particularly after what happened around Virgil van Dijk, the club have certainly closed up shop. So I hope that answers the question, and again, I apologise if I missed that the last time. Sam says, Klopp knows what he's doing, but I can't help feel worried. It's human nature within football. I mean, I'm with you, buddy. I get you. We're fans. We all want the best for Liverpool Football Club. We want to see us sign the best players that want to run through brick walls for Liverpool, that aren't just interested in money, that understand the history of the city, that understands the value and the morals of what it takes to be a Liverpool footballer. And we all hope that every player that pulls on the red shirt cares and loves the club as much as we do. That isn't the case, though, sadly, most of the time. Or not most of the time, maybe a lot of the time. But Klopp knows what he's at. He's bringing in the right type of individuals. There's a lot of fighters in that team, a lot of people who aren't all about themselves, who are willing to put in the hard yards for the team. And as you say, Kloppo knows what he's doing. Nathan John James says, got to go. Great stream as always. Catch you next time. And thank you, Nathan, again. Always appreciate you dropping in, buddy. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Right, let me just catch you. The chat's moving a lot quicker these days. When we first started, it was a lot slower. It was a lot easier to keep up with things. So I'm just going to scroll back up. The Raptor says, Maddock, Liverpool have no contract with Leon since talks over a £53 million deal from the FEKIR broke down. LFC don't envisage any progress with any further transfer targets until after the World Cup. Yeah, we touched on that a little bit earlier on as well, mate. Some mixed signals coming from different newspapers, so it's hard to know really what to believe, or if any of them really know what's going on. I mean, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm very full of gas tonight. I mean, this Diet Coke stuff, you know, it does make you bounce quite a bit. So I'm still willing to be sponsored though, Coca-Cola. If you're out there and you wanna hit me up, I don't even want money. I keep saying just give me free hands to Diet Coke and we'll do it. We'll work on it. Not that you're ever gonna see this or anything, or want anything to do with this bald Irish muppet, but I do like Diet Coke. I am a fan. Kevin Smith says, I still believe the FEKIR deal will happen after the World Cup is over. Just got to negotiate on a price because everything else has been done. Medical, he's got the shirt number. Yeah, as you said, Kevin, we got right down to that stage, didn't we? Apparently that the first interview for Liverpool Football Club is done. The video is there. He's in the training kit. We've seen the images. For it to have got that far, it is nuts. I just think it's nuts that it didn't get over the line. The Raptor says, after the World Cup, it's not going to happen till then at the earliest. Spurs, Newcastle. The clubs who you'd support. Yes, sorry. See, that's why I'm trying to catch up on the chat. So Spurs for David, Jimmy Spurs, Den Spurs, Mark Newcastle, Harry Newcastle. Well, Newcastle was the answer that myself, Daz and Dave gave on the pod as well. We thought that their fans are pretty damn brilliant. There's a great club, great history. Obviously Rafa there as well is a great show. I can understand people saying Spurs. I don't really like Spurs personally. I don't like the way they try to think that they're genuine rivals of ours. So they try to invent a rivalry that we don't really see. But I respect the style of football that they play. They have a great manager, a club that are certainly on the up, and a new stadium and stuff. So I can understand from the style of football why a lot of you guys would like the way Spurs play. Derek says, club has said in the past when they finished any interest in players when it's public. But yeah, again though, Derek, things have changed. And have the club really said it in the past, or have they just let it be known to the media? And that's not me being domineering, mate. It's a genuine question. I can't remember. Sam says, does it have to be a Premier League? If not, I choose Celtic right away because I'm from Scotland and my granddad took me to my first game when it was a Celtic game. Absolutely, mate. I mean, Celtic's a great answer. As I said, I've never been to Parkhead or Celtic Park. Sorry, not Parkhead. I'm showing my age. I've never been to Celtic Park, but I have had an experience of Celtic fans when we played Celtic in a pre-season friendly in Dublin's Aviva Stadium a few years back, and three sides of the stadium, and the three larger sides of the Aviva Stadium in Dublin were all Liverpool fans, and there was a smaller end and a really small end of the stadium that was just Celtic fans, and my God, they were bouncing. The noise they created, the atmosphere, they were brilliant. And one of my closest friends is a massive Celtic fan, and he's always trying to get me to come over for a game, and I really must take him up on that offer sometime because I'd love to be at Celtic Park and experience the atmosphere. So great show, and I completely get where you're coming from with Celtic. Steve says Owlers has been quiet, which is new. Flatman thinks Newcastle as well. If not them, Southampton. It's almost Liverpool. It's like Liverpool light, isn't it? To be fair, training Liverpool or trainee Liverpool. The Raptor says Stranraer. I was not expecting that one, mate. To be fair, that's an answer that I did not see coming. Daz says, Craig, one player who you could sign from the World Cup teams that's out already will be the only sign who will make this window. Just thinking back, who's out of the World Cup? If we have to be realistic, I mean, if we're not being realistic, I'm having De Gea because they went out today. But if I'm being realistic, who's gone out of the World Cup so far? Portugal, Patricio's just signed for somebody. Spain, obviously De Gea. Argentina, no goalkeeper there. I'm just basically trying to think of goalkeepers, that's me. Although, do you know what, I wouldn't mind. I know he's older and all, and I know we're fairly stocked in that position, but I've always liked Ever Banega as a footballer. So yeah, there's probably a good centre back in there as well somewhere that's gone out of the World Cup that I could have. But it's a good question. But if I could pick anybody, it would be De Gea, to be fair. Although I know that's not at all reasonable for me to say because there's no way he's ever coming to Liverpool. Who would you pick, Daz? Who would you like to see if you could take anybody from a country that's been eliminated so far from the World Cup? And again, I'm just trying to play back to the teams who's been eliminated and who's gone out that would have really good players. Gone back to I can't think of anybody else, to be fair. Maybe ask me this after the England-Colombia game, and if Colombia go out, I'll take James Rodriguez. Or Isco. Actually, Isco, there's my answer. Spain are gone out, Daz, so Isco is definitely my answer. Daz says, was the Premier League, Sam? Oh, it was the Premier League. The question, yeah, it was the Premier League. But I'm letting him have Celtic because, you know, he likes Celtic. There's family connection there, Daz. We gotta let him have it. I mean, if we can let the Raptor have Stranraer, then we have to let him have Celtic. Lubac says Newcastle for me. Mr. Bugsar says Newcastle as well. Sam says Daz, Koulibaly or Neuer. Two good shouts, to be fair. The junior's back. Aaron says, Daz, do you think FEKIR will happen? Ben says, on the bench, LFC, the player I would want from a team that's out of the World Cup is Koulibaly from Senegal. And Sam's other Premier League team would be Burnley. Lubac is Accrington Stanley. I'm not going to do it, Lubac. I'm not going to say the line. The junior says he'd love Alderweireld or Neuer, or the Shaqiri or Gelson Martins. God, I'm so far down on the chat. I thought I was catching up, but I'm still miles away. So I'm still scrolling back through. I'm going to try and fly down through this chat a little bit quicker so I can catch up with you guys. Flatman says, I live in Southampton, and it's as though they hate us when they beat us. Not very often, thank God. Dad says, Aaron, is still very possible, mate, if I'm not reading into anything about the deal or against. If France were at the World Cup, he thinks it'll be done after then. Den says, maybe everything is done and dusted with FEKIR, and Leon is only saving face with this World Cup. Ben wants to know, Daz, who would yours be, mate, if you could sign that one player you were talking about from the country that are out of the World Cup? And Daz answered, I'm thinking Brandt, at a player we could land. He won't come to Liverpool though, unfortunately, Daz. He has his heart set on Bayern Munich from everything I've been told. Anyway, although that probably means fuck all, to be fair. Craig, if you were a Muppet, which one would you be? I don't know the Muppets too well, to be fair. Yeah, so I honestly can't give you an answer because I'm not really a Muppets person. I could well be a Muppet, but not really a Muppets person. So maybe best if you tell me, Lubac, what Muppet character I'd be. Mr. Bugsar said, did you get your sponsorship of Diet Coke yet? Not yet, mate. I mean, I'm still working on it. Look, I'm still drinking the product. I'm still working on it. I'm still doing my part. I mean, I'm being part of the solution, but unfortunately, the good folks at Coca-Cola aren't yet coming up with the goods. Sam McGarry says, I don't want any of the surprise performers at the World Cup because they always get a big money move and then they become shit. And that's an interesting point, Sam. Dave spoke about this on our podcast tonight, that Liverpool aren't really going to be signing players that have a good World Cup. We're probably looking at players for next year's window already at this point and tracking younger players coming through at the World Cup for future moves. Liverpool are well aware of who they want this window. That work has been put in months ago. So I'm with you. I don't think you're going to see us looking to sign any players that have a surprise or a good World Cup. Connor says Brandt will end up at Bayern 100%. Lubac says the same thing. Daz is agreeing with Connor that they'll end up at Bayern. The Raptor says take Tommy Smith and Emlyn Hughes out of cryogenics. I love Crazy Horse. One of my first memories actually reading and watching a documentary about Emlyn Hughes and reading books about Emlyn Hughes. Fantastic captain for Liverpool. Mark Kinnard says PSG need to sell. Would anybody take Guadesh? Was on loan at Valencia last year. Great player, not had a great World Cup though. Daz, I think I gather you're sharing that you're off on holidays on Wednesday and obviously may have a great holiday. I hope you and your family have an amazing time. Enjoy yourselves wherever you're off to. Then says, any news on Draxler? Hopefully not. Not regarding the LFC anyway. I think I've given you guys my opinion on Julian Draxler. Lost all respect from when he went to PSG. And I don't think he has the mentality to really make it at the top level. Again, just my opinion, but I'm not doubting he has talent. He definitely has talent as a footballer, but just doesn't seem to be able to lift his game when he needs to. What else we got? Alisson and FEKIR will win the fucking lot. Anybody think we should go in for Golovin being outstanding this tournament? What else? Lubac says, Daz, will you have a self-catering kitchen, mate? I think he wants to know that for him doing streams. Alright, I think I get it now. I mean, I have the chimney here behind me, but Daz is famous for having his kitchen background. And it is mad that you get kind of known for these silly little things, isn't it? I mean, I just put this up to just stop you looking at a horrible, shitty kind of white wall almost. And I know Daz has his kitchen background, obviously, because none of us live in mansions, so we can only record where we can record. But yeah, Daz, let us know. Are you going to have a self-catering kitchen? Are you going to be able to stream when you're on holidays, or are you completely taking the time off? David says, you won't experience a game like an old firm game, mate. Mind-blowing. I'd love to. Oh, that would be amazing. I'd always looked at, the Super Classico over in Argentina. I've always looked at that and just thought, Jesus Christ, that's absolutely mental. Is it Boca Juniors and River Plate? What a game. What a game. On the bench, Daz. I say on the bench. Why am I reading on the bench? I know it's Daz. And he says Dan Draxler is to sit down for a chat with his management over the future soon. So we'll see what happens, I guess. Eric says new players coming in, young players moving up. We have to get rid of players, especially ones that's worth some money. Mignolet, Moreno, Ward, Lallana, Sturridge, Ings, Origi, etc. What do you guys think? Go through your list one by one there, Eric. Mignolet, yes, fully behind on. Moreno, only if he knocked on my door and said he wanted to leave. Although I think his contract is running down, so I get where you're coming from in regards to trying to cash in. Danny Ward, yes, I think he'll move on. Lallana, I don't think he'll move on, but I'd be open to moving him on, only because I think I'd be worried about if his injuries are going to keep coming back. Not doubting his quality and not doubting how much Klopp rates him. But he's 30 years of age now, I think, so Yeah, I possibly move on Adam Lallana. Although, look, if he stayed, I'd be more than happy for him to stay. Sturridge, yeah, love him to go. I mean, I think we're all the same on Sturridge. Danny Ings has already asked to leave. Origi, I'd move on as well. I've made no secret of thinking I don't think he'll make it at Liverpool. Ben, a few people are saying hello to Daz. Lovely to see you in here, and it is. It's always great for Daz to join the streams. It's a pleasure. Always been a pleasure chatting to Daz. Sam says, I think Rafa will hook us up with Lascelles if we give him Ings. That would be a very good swap deal. It'd be damn nice. I mean, if we could work out something there that would satisfy both parties, that would be damn nice. Connor says Golovin is off to Chelsea, he believes. Two manager Chelsea, says Steve. That's also two manager Napoli as well at the minute. Dell says, this question is for all but directed towards Craig. If you had the chance of witnessing Liverpool do the treble or you win $500,000, what would you pick? $500,000 isn't... It's a lot, but it's not life-changing. You know what? I take the $500,000 because I'm sure with that $500,000 I could probably buy myself a couple of season tickets, which is something I've always wanted to do. And I'd gamble that we'd probably get a treble at some point in my lifetime. Yeah, $500,000 to buy my family a house and to get me some season tickets. I'd probably give you the shitty answer and say $500,000. But it's a shitty question. But yeah, I'd say $500,000, but only because I'd use some of it towards trying to get to Liverpool more. But it is a tough question, Dale, so I'd be interested to see how others answer. Derek says, just surprised with how far the deal got, that the clubs would not be more official about the end of a deal as Leon have to report to the stock market. Sorry if I'm being naive. I mean, no, you're not at all. I mean, none of us are experts here, Derek, in regards to transfers or football matters. Leon want to sell, it looks like at this point. They're trying to sell. They're trying to drum up interest in FEKIR. They're trying to lie to us about United having an interest, about Real Madrid having an interest. And they seem to be still at the table, wanting Liverpool to come back to negotiate. I think what it boils down to is, do Liverpool genuinely think that the knee is too bad and that they can't go through with it? Or are they using it as a negotiating tactic? That's where I think we're at. And I don't know if Liverpool know the answer to that question. So maybe we're not hearing anything at all because nobody quite knows what's going on yet. Or perhaps they do. I just don't know, buddy. I think we're all as naive as each other, to be fair. Sam says, I can't wait to see all the signings. There's literally no better feeling than being abroad and watching pre-season games with the new signings starting. Yeah, it's lovely. It's great. You said there was a good few of you going to the game as well, so enjoy. Mark says, I'd be happy to keep Lallana as the Ox is out in November. Then if he hasn't performed, sell in January or next summer. It's a good point. Obviously it will take Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain a while as well to get back to fitness, and it's not unusual for a player coming back like that to pick up a little knock or two or a little niggly muscle injury or two as well. Lubac says, I think we sell Ings, Origi, Mignolet, Bogdan, Randall, Kent and Sturridge. Flatman says, come on boys, start trending Craig. Hashtag Craig new Diet Coke, man. Can you imagine the state of it? The state of those ads. Are you a chav? Do you like Diet Coke? Chavs drink Diet Coke. Connor says, what trophies does that treble include? If it's like Man United's treble including the Community Shield, then definitely take the money. Kevin Smith says, Liverpool to do the treble, forget the $500,000. Well, but if I put that £500,000 on the table in 50 quid notes, I say quid because I'm not sure if you're dollars or if you're actually no, you told me you're in England, didn't you? So yeah, £50 notes. If I put £50 notes down on the table in front of you, $500,000, it would be tough to walk away from that. Ben says, how about Ta? Jonathan Ta is definitely a surprise that nobody has gone in for, Ben. He's a man mountain, definitely like a beast of a player. The only worry I had about him in Liverpool sense is would he be mobile enough to play in our defence with the high line that we like to play at times. But I'm surprised none of the big clubs have gone in for Jonathan Tah because he's a very, very good defender. So it's a good show, and one that I'll be watching over the summer, because if it goes through another window with nobody making a move for him, then I'd start to wonder, is there something that we don't know, or is there something in his attitude perhaps? But he seems to be a very good footballer. What else have we got? Can we pick the here when Liverpool do the treble? Then we can bet on it, and I'll have the money also. Good way of thinking. I like that. Flatman, you're a genius, and Connor agrees. Sam says witnessing greatness. Daz. Lubac says Craig, start your own drink and call it chav. It'd have to be diet chav, I think, would be more, because I'm all about having the no sugar. So yeah, diet chav. Be part of the solution. Drink diet chav. Flatman says, cheers Connor, we'll let you know when we can, so we can have a flood of yourself. Tal says, I fancy a can of Craig right now, I'm not going to lie. I swear to God, mate, if you went down to my kitchen now and you looked in the presses, I think there's about 72 cans of Diet Coke and probably 15 2-litre bottles of Diet Coke down there. It's the only thing. I'd go hungry before I'd go without drinking Diet Coke. That probably sounds very bad though. I caveat that by saying I do drink at least 2 litres of water a day as well. There's nothing nicer than a glass of water at times, but as you guys know by now, I do love my Diet Coke. Ben says, do we need a centre back? Lovren looking good as confidence is on a high, plus Gomez could get a game there, and we still have Matip. I'd like us to move Matip on, Ben, mate. I don't think he's going to cut it at Liverpool. I don't think he's going to get a run of games together. Gomez, it'd be very interesting to see what goes on with him. Hopefully he can stay injury free, because we all know what a good footballer he is. And I agree about Dejan Lovren 100%. He's been like a different player since he made those fuck ups against Spurs in October. So I agree, he's a whole new different player, and I'm a big fan of Dejan Lovren. And I remember when we signed Virgil van Dijk, we did a podcast, and I think it was myself, Chris, and Tom on the pod. Cash may have been on it, I can't remember, but we were speaking about who's going to partner Virgil van Dijk, and I remember saying, you guys are going to think I'm mad, but I think Virgil van Dijk will be best partnered by Dejan Lovren, because I think Dejan Lovren needs somebody to talk him through a game and just help him out with his confidence a little bit, and I think that's what we've seen happen, and I think that they make a very good pairing. Mark says a can of Diet LFC juice. Flatman says my missus lives on the stuff also. It was my missus that got me drinking it, Flatman. When we first moved in together, we lived in an apartment in Dublin city centre, and payday hadn't arrived yet, and we both worked in the same place at that time. And at the time, I drank regular Coke and she drank Diet Coke, and I hadn't got paid, so I was smashed. But she still had a couple of bottles of Diet Coke floating around the apartment, so I'd no money and I'd no Coke left. So I said, look, I'm gonna have to either drink water or drink this Diet Coke. So I remember taking my first mouthful of it and going, Jesus Christ, how do you drink this piss? But then it was a couple of days obviously before I got paid, so I drank a bit more and a bit more of it, and then I went to have a glass of Coke afterwards, and when I put the Coke to my mouth and swallowed it, I could feel every little bit of sugar ingraining on my teeth and stuff. So ever since that day I've been drinking Diet Coke, and that is what, together with my missus now, 18 years, so a long time. And you know what, it's probably saved me a load of sugar as well over the years. Craig, it's got a ring to it. I'll have a chav and vodka. A chav driver, that's what we could call it. You know, you have a screwdriver, you've got vodka and orange juice, well, we can have a chav driver. Mark says Matip is worth keeping just for his reactions to the referees when he gives away a foul. Ben says, anyone else laugh when they saw Ramos's haircut? Oh my god, I've actually caught up with the chat. Brilliant, I've actually caught up with the chat. Nice one. I think it's the first time tonight I've managed to catch up with the chat. Well, seeing as how I've caught up, if anybody is watching the stream and they're enjoying it and they haven't yet subscribed to the channel, or they haven't yet given us a thumbs up, please do so. Hit that button, help us grow the channel, give us a thumbs up. And as I said earlier on, if you enjoy our channel, you subscribe to our channel, make sure you subscribe to On The Bench LFC as well. Daz is in the chat tonight, an absolutely quality channel and an absolutely quality fella. So give Daz a sub as well, and don't forget to give him a thumbs up if you're watching the streams. Ben says, why don't LFC just pay the £88 million for Oblak? Would solve our goalkeeping situation for a while. I suppose, Ben, it comes down to the fact that we'd have to convince Oblak to come to Liverpool as well. It's not as much as we'd love it as fans to just say, let's go and buy him and him and him. The player might be settled in Atletico Madrid. He's been there a while. His family might love the city. He might love living there. He might love the club as well. So it's not just a matter of banging down the release clause. It's down to the player as well. But I mean, you're not going to get an argument from me about the quality of him as a goalkeeper. He's absolutely one of the best in the world. Derek says, great chat tonight. Sorry for keeping on, but just desperate for us to push on with some more great signings. Off to bed now, is work in the morning, but keep up the great streaming. You'll never walk alone. Thanks, Derek, and mate, nothing to ever apologise for. Thanks for joining in, and always great to have you. Lubac says, come on guys, let's smash the chat. No, you can't do that. I'm after catching up. I'm all proud of myself now for catching up. Moses Simon is no better than Ronnie Rosenthal. Pace and can't finish. Pavon or Lozano are much better quality. That Ronnie Rosenthal finish was that was one of the worst. That was one of the worst misses I've ever seen. I think it was against Villa, if I remember correctly. But you all know what my memory is like. DK says, thanks for all the content. Mate, thank you for watching, and everybody for watching. I mean, it's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. Hashtag Chav is the solution. I never thought I'd be so happy to see myself called a Chav. Connor says, somebody downvoted. I demand vengeance. There's always one person that has to go and ruin the stream by hitting the thumbs down. Well, look, if someone doesn't enjoy it, they're fully entitled to hit the thumbs down button. I mean, that's what it's there for. I mean, some people might just think I'm an absolute plank, so power to them, and they're within their rights to hit that thumbs down. But I'm with you, Connor. I demand vengeance. I want this person hunted down, and I want to know who the fuck they are. Not that we'll ever know. That does drive me mad, actually, not knowing. Lubac says Oblak won't want to leave Madrid. Sam says Liverpool's a better city than Madrid. Imagine disagreeing. Never been to Madrid, but I can certainly vouch for how brilliant a city Liverpool is. Flatman says they must have liked full fat Diet Coke and not Diet Connor. That could be it. That could be it as well. Or do you know who else it might be? We haven't thought of this. We've glossed over this one. It might be Sergio Ramos. He might have heard us all laughing at him and just come in and gave us a thumbs down as well. Loki says, well, Oblak you have to pay the 88 million straight up and not just the usual payment structures like every other transfer, which is absolutely true. There's also VAT on that, agents' fees, VAT on agents' fees, and probably 10 other types of little taxes that none of us mere mortals know anything about. Skipper Dog says it was Villa. I'm so proud that I remembered that one. I mean, for me, that's unbelievable, because you guys know I can't remember names half the time. Sam says, I'm off school now midway through August. Nice one. Enjoy. My daughter's off school as well. It's a pain in the arse having her around the house all the time, but I have to pretend it's a privilege, and she's a wonderful young lady, which she is, to be fair. Eduardo says, hello Craig, tuning in again. Hello Eduardo, mate, lovely to see you back. Thank you for joining us. Dan says, what about Subasic? A lot of people again tonight giving a lot of compliments to Subasic for the way he played for Croatia. And at Monaco, who else is at Monaco? They've got Kevin Trapp, haven't they? They're bringing in Buffon, so maybe he's 33 years of age. I think somebody pointed out earlier on, so maybe there's a bit of business. Why am I saying Monaco and then saying Kevin Trapp? That's PSG, and so with Gianluigi Buffon. Just ignore me. Yeah, but Subasic, he is a good, steady keeper. You'd get a year or two out of him, definitely, maybe even 3. But would he keep the fans happy? Would he keep Liverpool fans happy? DK says, how does Naby Keita compare to N'Golo Kante in terms of defensive positioning? I know we've seen Naby Keita come out and say that, first and foremost, look at him as a defensive player. That's fair enough, but he's much more capable of breaking a line and moving forward than N'Golo Kante is. And N'Golo Kante is an absolutely amazing footballer who would grace any club in the world. But they're slightly different types of players. I would almost say that Naby Keita is a little bit more forceful than N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante is really good at reading play and being a part of the times not having to make the really last stage tackles and stuff is the sign of an excellent footballer, just being in the right place at the right time, and N'Golo Kante can do that better than most. But Naby Keita, he's very good at the defensive side of things as well, but he can break the line, he can pick out a pass, he can look forward. He's more of an all-round midfielder than just simply a defensive midfielder. In fact, I was shocked when he came out and called himself more of a defensive midfielder, or that think of him from a defensive point of view first and foremost. But look, N'Golo Kante is absolute quality. Right, what have we got? Flatman says, going to have to call it a night now, fellas and lassies. Great chat as always. Like before you go, everybody. Do you know what, guys? I am going to call it a night as well, because I still have to edit the podcasts and stuff, and get them out for people on the podcast app. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't given us a thumbs up yet or a sub, please do. And Daz is in the chat as well. Don't forget to go over and give Daz a sub if you haven't already done so. But look, if you like my channel, or our channel, excuse me, you'll certainly like Daz's channel, and you'll certainly know about Daz's channel. So lads, look, good night, and as always, up the Reds, and thank you for joining in. I'll chat to you all tomorrow.